Welcome, Fushma, to our show.
Thank you so much, Anuradha, for having me.
Can you tell us something about yourself? I have been speaking about you, but people would like to know from you. Yeah.
To give a description about myself, in three statements, if I have to tell you to begin with, you can say I'm a dreamer, I'm a nature lover, I'm a travel enthusiast. Beyond, going beyond this, if I have to really describe myself, I'm a true born and bred Bangalorean. I've been in Bangalore my entire life. So right from my education to starting my first job over here was pretty much all over here. And although I got an opportunity to sort of travel to other places for work, I was like, you know what, this is where I really want to be. I completed my BBM, I completed my MBA, and I worked in advertising for a couple of years. And then later I decided to call it quits. I said, okay, you know what, this is enough. Let's look at doing something. And this is where I got into, join the travel domain. So this is pretty much where I landed up after a stint of corporate life of about, say, 3 years that I worked with. Of course, it's a short stint, you can say, but travel was something that was always calling me. So that's where I joined the travel industry.
Okay, Fushma. So, as you know, that this podcast is about travel and wellness.
Right.
So, before I go on to talk about your offering, yours truly India, can you discuss a little about how you interrelate travel and wellness? I want to know your view.
Mhm. Okay, so I think it's a very valid question, Anuradha. When you look at travel and wellness, it goes hand in hand. Okay, so let's take the situation, or let's take the current scenario where we are all present in a city life. Okay, so looking at Bangalore itself, where we are based, today's lifestyle has become so hectic. People are always busy. That you have earlier, you used to have only more of men working. Now women are also working. It's an IT industry over here, and so everybody's lifestyle has become so hectic. Now when you look at sort of trying to do something for your own wellness on a day-to-day basis, you look at activities like, say, maybe yoga, meditation, going for a walk, or even meeting family, for example, right? Travel is something which comes as a long term plan. You wouldn't travel every day or every week. It's a very planned thing, or maybe even unplanned also, but people do it on a long term basis or as a long term plan. So I think it's very relevant because we can't really be confined in our own spaces, doing our own thing without having a
Absolutely.
perspective of going outside and exploring. So this is where it comes in, where travel really opens up your mind. It really sort of refreshes you, brings in a new perspective, and person who comes back from travel, of course, we always say, oh, you know what, I wish I could go back and like spend more time and all. But you'll see that person is more energized, so both physically and mentally they're prepared to come back to their jobs, their routine. And I think that's where travel really helps anybody and everybody. Like till now, I've not really come across anybody who said I don't like traveling. So be it I mean, of course, travel for leisure, travel for pilgrimage, or anything. Like my mom, she likes to go to temples. Okay, and that's her sort of bringing sort of
Bangalore has several temples.
several
Bangalore.
temples, right? Yeah, absolutely.
So
And
right now we are talking about short-term travel. Like for travel, for some people, it may mean going away for a week. But
yes,
right now, if we come back to your venture, yours truly India, you are taking short walks or
yes,
short trips. So can
yes.
you tell us something about what you offer to clients?
Okay, so talking about my venture now, yours truly, India. Just to give a small background into this, so that we can get into why we are doing this, right? Now, in generally, like a lot of people who have traveled abroad, or I would have heard of friends who have gone abroad, they come back and say, you know what, we went on a walking tour, and we were able to explore so many things. And so I mean, the way they describe the travels really, talks more about them being a true traveler than a tourist. So between a traveler and a tourist, if you look at the difference, you'll say that traveler is a person who's really taken in the depths, experienced the place well, whereas a tourist is somebody who's very confined to a frame. They go there, okay, knowing that, okay, we have to do this, 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 and they have like a very narrow framework. A traveler is somebody who's more into what they're doing. So when you look at that aspect of it, when I started Yours Truly India, I really wanted that sort of a culture to come into Bangalore, because back in those days, I'm saying about 5 years back, this is when I started, there's not really too many people who are doing this in sort of indulging a person into the travel domain, to really get them the experience of being in a city and not just saying, okay, Bangalore is famous for IT, it's famous for few things, so let's just go and explore these things. I wanted.
So suppose I'm working in Infosys and I'm
Hmm,
working in New Delhi, for example, or Pune, and
hmm,
I'm here in Bangalore for about a week and I have my weekend free.
hmm.
So where would Sushma take me? Where would she like to take me to get a glimpse of the city, know the culture, given the short time frame I have?
Hmm. So Anuradha, I would say that there are quite a few options that comes to mind. Okay, so say for example you're coming to Bangalore for the first time, I would definitely want you to experience Bangalore itself before I take you out of the city. Okay, so Bangalore itself has a lot of things that it's famous for. Okay, so it's like a garden city. It's the IT capital. It's a pub capital. Okay, so the first few things that I would want to take you to would be the first few famous sites. So I have like in my on my website, you'll see there's both conventional and unconventional tour. So if I know you as a person, first I would like to understand, okay, what is Anuradha into? Does she like food? Does she like art? Does she like to walk around a lot? So based on your preference, I would take you to maybe some unconventional sites. Maybe I could take you to
Let us
some.
talk about unconventional things. Let us talk about unconventional tours.
Unconventional. Okay, very interesting. Unconventional is also one of my favorites actually to say, because people enjoy this aspect more than the conventional things. See, unconventional, I would say that I would take you to things which you probably wouldn't have, or you probably would think you'll not see in guidebooks. Okay, so for example, I would take you not to a normal temple. Okay, because Bangalore is famous for a lot of temples. I would take you not to a normal temple, but I would probably take you to a 1,000-year-old cave temple, for example. Okay,
Cave
so it's
temple.
called this
Okay.
cave temple, right? It's called the Gavika Gandheshwara temple. It's very unique. It's got a lot of history on its own. I would take you over there. I would take you in a short walk in the neighborhood for you to feel a little more of what the vibes of the city is, besides what you see Bangalore as an IT capital. So I would take you to a marketplace, okay, because markets are the best experiences one can have. You go to any place, you go to any city, and you go to the market, you get to understand more of the people and the culture. And Bangalore is very, very famous for something called the Kiar market.
Care market.
Is
Yes.
where the early morning sales of flowers take place. In the marketplace, it's supposed to be Asia's largest marketplace. The one that takes place, in the morning between 4 and 6 o'clock, is absolutely a delight. You wouldn't have seen
So
anything like it before.
to reach KR market between 4 to 5 o'clock, do
Hmm.
I have to wake up early at 3 o'clock and meet you at a certain place? Like
Not really.
when do I start this walk with you?
See, if we really do a marketplace, which you want to see the early morning marketplace, um, this we would probably begin by say 5:30 or 6 o'clock. In
That's okay.
Bangalore, yeah, the peak hour traffic in Bangalore is really bad. But if you look at it early morning, anywhere that you are, half an hour is enough for you to reach a destination. And
Okay.
by the time the sunlight comes in, 6 o'clock is a good enough time to experience. So 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, the market is still on, and you'll be able to like say take a lot of photographs, explore it, when the sun comes up. So even beginning at around that time is still pretty okay. But in spite of that, say for example, you can't make it, you don't want to wake up early morning, we can still do the marketplace after the pop-up market in the morning shuts down. So once that is done, we still have a portion of the marketplace which is functioning. So you will be able to see in some of the pictures that this marketplace is so vibrant that throughout the day you go there, you wouldn't have seen anything like this. I mean, a lot of places in India, cities have a marketplace like this, but this is something which only when you see an experience, you know that this is very, truly very unique about Bangalore.
So how much time shall I take to cover, say, cave temple and the KR market and some other things? How much time should I take out to be satisfied that yes, I have seen some part of Bangalore?
See, I would definitely recommend half day minimum would be about say about 4 hours. Minimum is what you will need. Okay, so
Okay.
given that you probably, if you're having some of the schedule or not, half a day is a minimum amount of time that I would ask you to give. And full day we can cover a lot more. Okay, so on a full day, right from starting with breakfast experiences, because Bangalore's famous for its coffee.
Yeah.
We can have some of the local breakfast where you say, for example, Rava idli is famous, the dosa is famous, take you to some of the best cafes, which is not where you'll find like a hi-fi sort of a setting. It's like a local darshini, and that's where you get the best of experiences. So we begin with things like that, so that adds on to the experience part of it. So
So
that
how
is.
much walking will I have to do to cover
Hmm.
these many places? Is it a long trek or will I be comfortable? I'm
So I would put it this way, Anuradha. I would say, suppose if you're doing like a half day and we're exploring a particular neighborhood, say you would probably be walking anywhere from 2.5, 3 kilometers or 4 kilometers, depends on our pace and depends on what are the additional things that you want to do within that area. So this is a walking tour. But if you want to do something on a longer basis, for example, if you want to do a full day tour, I wouldn't recommend doing the entire thing walking because everything is really spread out in Bangalore, right? So what we do is we take a vehicle and we
okay.
move around and then we go to a particular place, maybe explore that area a little, walk around a bit, and then move on to the other place. So you're not going to be tired having to do this. So it really depends on you on how much you want to, maybe walk or you want to sit in a vehicle. We have all the choice possible there for you. So without tiring you,
So
uh,
in Bangalore, we have wonderful climate by the grace of God. But
yes.
according to you, is there any particular time where I should come to Bangalore and I would be enjoying these tours more than some other time of the year?
See, that's a good question. Compared to the rest of the cities, like you mentioned, Bangalore is really blessed with the climate. So even if you're coming in the summer months where you have, like, in India, you'll see that the summer vacation for kids is generally between, say, April, May to June, right? So I would say, yes, these are the hotter months. You would probably prefer coming to Bangalore than any other city. Considering if you have a vacation, you want to travel, Bangalore is still a good place to enjoy that. But the best time to travel would be, I would say even if the monsoon is not so bad actually, because the weather really comes down. And even though it rains here, it doesn't rain continuously, right? So it rains
Yeah.
like, for example, only evening we might have like 2 hours of shower, and then we have pleasant weather. So I would say anywhere from even June, July is okay. The best time would be October, November, December till about February is a
I
good
have
time.
a question here talking about monsoons.
Hmm.
Do you have any favorite place where would you like to take me during monsoons? The rains, which some places in Bangalore that looks prettier during the green time. I will take my umbrella, I promise you. But is there any place you would like to show me during this period of the year?
Well, Anuradha, I would say, so within the city itself, the greenery, the parks are the best place. Okay.
Okay,
I would probably, take you to, like a yoga session in the morning just before the rains.
all right.
Because, in our itinerary, we also have yoga as part of an experience where we begin off,
Wonderful.
for a 1 hour session. And I would probably say just sitting under a bandstand under, maybe in Kapil Park or Lal Bagh, just witnessing the rains are quite magical. Besides that, there are a lot of coffee shops as well. Okay, so this is where I would probably take you to some place like, say, the Indian Coffee House, or I would probably take you to Koshi's. Okay, you can see the rain splattering outside. You sit
Where
and
is
have
Koshi located, Kushma? Which part of Bangalore is this?
Koshi's is on St. Mark's Road.
Okay.
St. Mark's Road, and of course, very close to the MG Road. And Koshi's is one of the older restaurants in the city, around 1940s that it started off. It's got like an old British charm and ambience around the place, and a lot of people with nostalgia, who have been visiting there. People who in the media industry, especially, go to Koshi, sit over there. So in the morning, people go have their coffee. By evening, they serve beer. So that's how the
Yeah,
place.
coming to this, we have been talking about monsoons, the day tour. Do you have something to offer to people who want to enjoy nightlife? The pubs are so famous in Bangalore. Can you talk something about
Yes.
beer and
This is one of the things that you should come to Bangalore and not miss. Okay, I mean, if be it, if you are a person who drinks beer or not drink beer, just the experience of it is something which the city can offer you. We earlier we used to be called as a pub capital. Okay, so we're talking about the 80s and the 90s when any of the pubs back in those days you would enter, you would find that it's all hard rock music and people having beer in their hands and stuff. Now today we've moved on from the
I
pub
have seen your
culture.
Instagram account and you've done a very popular episode of pub crawling,
Yes.
which was very
So that
famous.
is
Can you talk something about that? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, coming back to the culture where, the beer never stopped flowing into the city. Today we have a lot of microbreweries and the culture has not stopped, okay? Because one is it's an IT city. Two is, people want something to do over the weekend. So, this concept of what you see on Instagram or Facebook that we did a couple of years back, when I say we, it's me and one of my other relatives. We got together. We said, you know what, we're already exploring Bangalore. One of the things which really talks about Bangalore also, besides the daytime, the nighttime, the night culture, how to bring it to life is through these pub crawls. Now, what is a pub crawl? Okay, this is basically it's an evening, it's an outing basically where people, say tourists or people within the city, they get to purchase the ticket, and within that ticket they get to go on a crawl, or rather they go to pub hop to say about three or four different pubs. And in each of these pubs, they're given, say, one free drink. It could be some free food, and then they're given, a lot of activities take place. They have a chance to win any of these activities, and the important concept is they get to mingle with other people. So generally, when tourists come to the city and they come in small numbers and they want to, they're on a very low budget and they want to say experience a pub culture, you would know that going to a pub, you would easily blow up say about 2,000 rupees, right, just to have a drink and food. But in the pub crawl, we try to give the benefits to people with having a very minimum ticket price. For example, it could be like say 1,000 rupees on a ticket, and the entry to all the places that we're taking is free. They get a drink on the house beyond which they get to purchase, and they get to play a lot of activities and games. So what we did was about 3 years back, we took people to the Indranagar area. Indranagar is now become the vibrant, hangout place for a lot of youngsters, and a lot of pubs and resto bars over there. So we started with one place. We sold, by the way, we sold about 130 tickets,
Wow.
and we had a big team. We had a lot of volunteers, organizers with us. So we started at one pub where we had like fun games and questions. It was like a general GK about Bangalore. Whoever answered got free goodies, and of course, whoever came and got a free drink over there. Then we all took them, went to the next pub, which was just about say about 500 meters away, and then we played more fun games like say beer pong, or we made a couple of people like model around giving away. No problem. So basically, so after the third pub, we go to the last pub, the fourth pub, or rather, this is like a exclusive dance area, right? So we have one of a very renowned DJ. He's playing music over there, and by then people are very like nice, and they're not sober, right? So everybody's in the mood to dance, and finally we end the night over there. So a lot of people who came in, the thing is they got to meet one another, make friends, and they got to enjoy the night all at a very limited price. So this was something that we wanted to do to sort of or rather organize it, so that we can get to like we can try and tell people that hey, there's more to Bangalore than just
So I'm just curious, Pushpa, how many pubs can I cover in a day, in an evening? And because why I'm saying so is Bangalore is such a congested place, and if
yeah,
I try to take a vehicle
yes,
to from place A to B, it will take me in
yeah,
the evening a lot of time.
yes,
As the infamous traffic
yeah,
of Bangalore. So
yeah.
how many pubs can I cover if I want to do this with you? Let's say next year or whenever.
I'll tell you what, Anuradha. We, generally, whenever you look at these pubs, of course, Bangalore, in area-wise, you can scatter yourself around. So, say, for example, in Indranagar itself, there are easily, I can say, about 10 different places that you can go to, right? And
Okay.
if you look at Whitefield. Whitefield
Yeah.
has become another township and a hub again, and they themselves have their own, centers for, drinking and, pubs, etc. So, if I'd like to take you out, we would be concentrated, I would say, in one area so that we avoid, driving around or avoid the
Okay.
traffic time. And maybe say about 4 to 5, I would say, if you're starting off at even 7 o'clock, because,
Yeah.
although Bangalore is famous for its nightlife, it also comes to an end pretty quickly. And I would say fair enough time of at least 1 hour you should give in each of these places. So if we
Okay.
start by say even 7 or 8 o'clock and we land up at 12 o'clock, about 4 to 5 pubs easily we can cover, and it can be like a brewery to we can end up in a dance floor, or any of these places. So I would definitely say that never look at doing too many things, but we do it in a confined space, and you have like chances of moving around without having to feel the pinch of traffic in the city.
Perfect. This sounds really very interesting. Now, you have spoken about Bangalore and the nightlife. Do you have any suggestions for me if I want to go to nearby places in Bangalore, where I can come back and catch my Monday morning flight? Usually, people can
Yes.
you make some suggestions?
Yes, so definitely. So when we look at again the weekend, okay, so for example, you might have like one night free. Somebody might be working even on a Saturday, and they say that okay, I have only Sunday free. What do I do on a given day? So if I have to split this up, I can say on a particular day, if you want to do only a day trip, right? There are a lot of few kilometers away from the airport. We have something called Nandi Hills. Okay, so that's one of the very closest destination. Nandi Hills is like a small, our very own hill station for Bangalore. You can say the temperature is always about 3 to 4 degrees, lower than what you would find in the city. You can easily go trekking up to Nandi Hills. There are a lot of places to see around there. A lot of old heritage temples at the base of Nandi Hills. Then we have a couple of other places. Once you go beyond 100 kilometers, say we have places like Melkote. Melkote is like a historical town, and it takes about I would say I covered it in about 2 hours going one way, and again it takes about 2.5 hours coming back. You can go to this so this temple place again.
It is in Karnataka. Merikute is in
Very
Karnataka.
much in Karnataka. So we are talking about in Mandya district, and I would like I would say maybe 130, not even 130, around 110 kilometers from the city center in Bangalore, right?
Okay.
Then you have places like Mandargiri Hills, DD Hills. So
Yes.
these are again, on the way to Tumkur Road, Mandargiri. It's a beautiful. There's a Jain heritage site. Generally, when you look at South India, if you look at Bangalore or Karnataka, you don't find too many Jain heritage sites,
True.
especially
True.
old temples. So you
Yes.
find that there's an ancient temple on a hillock. You can go climbing up the temple, explore the temple. There's this nice lake surrounding it. There is a Jain Tirthankara which was recently installed, and it's all very nice and photogenic places. Also, I must say. So for a lot of places, there'll be a lot of people. They'll be like, okay, you know what, I want to explore, and they want to take the pictures, right? And I'm saying these are all like picture-worthy places, very lesser known. These have not still picked up on the tourist radar, but these are places that one must definitely visit if they're looking for like a short day trip. Now, if you're willing to say that, okay, I have one night that I can spend, right? So I would say, something like Mysore. Now, Mysore, generally people speak of the first thing when they come to Bangalore, they will be like, okay, you know what, Mysore is one destination. I'll say definitely take one day's time, because today traveling to Mysore and coming back to Bangalore the same day becomes very hectic. The journey itself takes about, say, 3 hours going. If you're coming back during the peak hour traffic, it takes about 4 hours. Weekend, especially, a lot of travel takes place. So Mysore is worthy if you're spending one night stay over there. You stay there, explore the palace, explore, say, the bird sanctuary. You go up the Chamundi Hills, and there's Somnathpur temples, beautiful temples again, Hoysalabil temple. So these are some of the things that you can do within one night. And again, you have like fishing camps. Like when you talk about nature, there is a lot of places like Bhimeshwari fishing camp, Galibore fishing camp, and again some of these things which I have experienced and done it, which I have found it feasible. I have again put it up on the Instagram account, and there's a lot of details as to person how practical it is to go and come back on a given day.
Is there any adventure sports also available with Bhimeshwari or any other places you have mentioned?
So, see, Bhimeshwari, Galibore, or the Mekedatu area, earlier fishing used to be allowed. But the government has put a ban on it, saying, you know what, you can no longer go and use, or do fishing over there. So the only thing that you can probably, like, I would say, coracle rides, boating, coracle rides. Those are some of the things that you can do around. If you're looking at adventure activity as such, if you're looking at high adrenaline adventure, I would say you definitely need to take more than 2 days or 2 nights of leave and go to this place called Dandeli. So Dandeli, it's a beautiful place. There's River Kali running through this area. It's a forest area. You can do rappelling. You can do whitewater rafting. There are a lot of other adventure activities. You can also go on jeep safaris, night safaris over there. So this is probably one of the destinations that I would recommend, that if somebody is like looking at high adventure, even Coorg for that matter. Coorg also has whitewater rafting. I've done it, I think, once or twice myself, and it's pretty good. So if you want to experience the Scotland of India, I would say take like a 2 night off, go to these places, and just don't travel so much in between. So going and coming, you try to reduce it, minimize it by having like a stay over there. And these are places like, say for example, Coorg, Kabini, Bandipur. I would say these are the places so worth going, that if you come to Bangalore, if you can extend a vacation, suppose if you're coming from Delhi or somebody's coming from any other place.
I am asking a very naive question here about Kabini. I have heard that
Mhm.
there's a river safari. You go on the river, but
Yes.
that river is infested with alligators. Is it true? And is it safe to travel? To be on a boat with so many alligators traveling. I'm not sure. I'm just asking you if this
Yeah.
is true or not. And how safe would it be for a normal tourist who does not know swimming very well?
Well, I would definitely tell you it's very, very safe. I've gone to Kabini a lot of times.
Right.
Yes, it's true. There is a river safari over there. You get to spot not just the alligators like you mentioned, but you can get to see a lot of elephants otherwise. And in case of if you're really in luck, you can even get to see leopards. I mean, Kabini is known for that, for spotting of tigers and leopards, right? So it's a very safe place because it's organized in a very well manner. You have all these resorts. Who charge a premium, yes, compared to the rest of the other forest areas. Some of the resorts which is based in Kapini are expensive, but it's only because the safety measures are pretty much all in place. So even if you're going on a river safari, they're going to give you like a life jacket, and you're pretty much going to be on a boat. So I wouldn't really be fearful if I'm, looking at any of these places. I would say just go ahead and enjoy yourself. Especially if you're a nature lover, these are the places that you must visit.
I have heard a lot about Dasera in Mysore.
Hmm.
Can you say something about it? What makes it so special? The reason I'm asking is because there's one Dasera in Kullu. Kullu is in North India, so that is also very famous. So how would what differentiates this particular Mysore Dasera from Dasera in say Delhi, for example, or whatever, any other city?
Okay, so so Dasara, like as you know, in entire of India, most of the people who celebrate it, they have their own way of celebrating, right? They have their own festivity, they have their own way in which they go about on the proceedings. Dasara in Karnataka is very, very important, especially in a state in a place like Mysore. It's recognized as a state festival. Why? Because it was started off way by the Vijayanagar dynasty, which ruled Karnataka and the southern parts over a period of time. They started the celebrations in a very pompous way. So, they would extend it to, like say about 9 days, 10 days. They would have a lot of celebrations where people would come, the village people would join in. They would have like every day a lot of activities. You have like kustis taking place. The kings would give patronage to it. Somewhere along the line, it started to die down when the British came to India. But then it started to revive again under the Wadiyar dynasty, because Mysore is pretty much today. If you look at it, you still have the Wadiyar family staying over there, and they also took to celebrating or continuing with the state celebration of these festivals. So it's very famous over there, because one is even the government today. Post independence, the government also said we are going to take a lot of initiatives to bring back that glory that was once lost. And they also put in a lot of say contribution towards getting this festival ready. Like I attended the Dashera last year, and I must tell you that all of the like it takes place for all of the 10 days. Each of the day there is something or the other happening. Now I was able to attend only like 2 days of it. Okay, so what I went and did was, there was um, I mean, they had a lot of stalls put up. There was like a food festival taking place, exhibitions taking place. The palace, and rather, this is something that you must see, that it lights up. Okay, and oh my God, you should. It's only a justice only if you see it. With all those thousands of bulbs that they put over there, it really brings to life like, oh my God, this is really like something worthwhile. On the last day of the festival, they have a elephant procession, where you have the Maharaja sitting on the elephant, and he takes a procession with his team of all the soldiers and everybody, and they pass through the city. Okay, so everybody comes over there, and there's like tabloids, etc. So people come there to watch this entire thing. So every day is something or the other special. Like one of the days, like my husband is like a car enthusiast, and we really missed it because there was like a procession where all the cars, apparently all the heritage vintage cars came out, and so that takes place on one particular day. There's wrestling that takes place. There's a lot of cultural activities like singing, dancing, etc.
Vintage cars. So, who's the owner of this vintage cars? Vodiyas?
The Wadiyas also have like a good collection of them. I'm not really sure if it is only the Wadiyas or even the public gets out, but I'm guessing it's pretty much the royal family who's
Royal
have
family.
these cars put up on
And
display.
this palace, is it people are living there right now, or is it just for a government property now?
Well,
Vodiyar
no, no, no.
Palace.
So the Wadiya family pretty much stays in the palace itself. I mean, it's a huge palace if you see the Ambavela Palace, and you have a particular inside, but the remaining portion of the palace is still, pretty much where there's occupancy by these, by the family, the royal family. Yeah.
What a wonderful description of the Saram. I was there with you when you were describing me all that. So, Pushma, you've also spoken about previously and talks about this groundnut fair. You
Yes.
made one video and it went viral. More than about 500 shares were there. So, what is groundnut fair? I've never heard about it before.
So, to describe Bangalore, one of the uniqueness of the city is this festival that takes place. I mean, there are several other festivals that we celebrate, but this is one such festival, which started a couple of years ago. Okay, so this is the groundnut fair, the peanut fair. In the local language, we call it Kadlikai Parishe. Now, this takes place in an area called Basvanagudi, and Basvanagudi is very, very famous for a temple called the Bull Temple over there. Now, the temple itself has a history. Okay, it said that earlier, before the coming of the temple, farmers used to cultivate peanuts in that village, and apparently one day there was this bull which was coming and destroying all the crops. So the farmer said, you know what, we need to do something about this. Maybe we pray to the gods and build a temple, and hopefully, this menace will go away. So that's how the temple came into existence, right? And what the farmers started doing from that day onwards is they said, okay, you know what, we must honor this in some way. Now, today, if you look at the area, today Baswankudi is like a proper residential, one of the old localities in Bangalore, no longer a place where you'll see any cultivation taking place. So to honor the tradition, farmers from all across, say mostly the southern part of India, not just Karnataka, they come to this particular temple, bringing in their crops. Okay, so the first harvest, and we're talking about the month of November. So November, too auspicious date, but the week long the festival takes place. The farmers transport like tons and tons of peanuts. They come and offer some to the temple as a way of them taking blessings, and then they set up their stalls on the pavements, right? So we're talking about like almost like 2 kilometers on a stretch, blocked for vehicular traffic. And you're not going to find like any other things like some other vegetables or anything being sold. It's mainly peanuts, and of course other local smaller vendors selling bangles and all of the other things. So this is where thousands of people are. Rather, if you've not visited this, I would I would really recommend this to you, because this is something that is very, very unique about Bangalore. This is like a place where you'll see that locals come over here, enjoy the festival, and even to enter the temple, on a normal day you just walk in and walk out, but to enter the temple you'll have to probably wait for an hour long. If you don't want to do that, there's still a lot of celebrations taking place. And the tradition is, you pick up some like a bag of peanuts, you come back home and you cook. So that's how the farmers get their sales, and that's how people come to celebrate this for a long time. So we made a video on it, and this was one of the first videos that I wanted to showcase about Bangalore because it's something so unique. So generally whenever people are traveling in November, this is like a sort of encouragement for them to sort of stick around those dates to witness this. And I was quite surprised myself when the video went viral. I was like, okay, this is something which is really very unique, and people started sharing it. So that's the video that you saw. That there's one of the unique aspects that was covered. The peanut fair that happened in November month.
It happens a few days, a few hours, or like how many days will it happen?
So it's like two auspicious dates in the month of November. We call it Kartika Masa, according to the Hindu
Yes.
calendar. So the dates keep changing every year. But if you look up every year, you'll know what the dates are, the two auspicious dates. But otherwise, entire week you can you can come and witness this, because the farmers, when they come and go, there's a lot of cost for the transportation and other things, right? So they stay put for an entire week, and so for that entire week you can actually come and witness the festivals on any of those days, particularly in the month of November.
This temple you're talking about, I have been to the temple myself, and I thought that this is the bull of Lord Shiva.
Yes.
But is it that particular bull of Lord Shiva, or as you telling me the story that one bull was destroying all the crops, so they
Mhm.
just built one idol of bull and then they starting praying to that
So it's really
bull
correlated.
itself.
I mean, if you look at it, in India, if you look at, there are just two main gods which people generally worship. Like you have Shiva and you have Vishnu, right? So when you look at Shiva, his vehicle is the bull. And it so happened that within that area, it was the bull that was really destroying the crops. So there's a deep connection between the bull and Lord Shiva that has come in. And the uniqueness about this is that, generally in a temple dedicated to either Shiva or Vishnu, you'll find the Shiva idols or Vishnu idols to be very prominent in the main sanctum sanctorium.
Yes,
But the bull temple, if you have noticed, you see the bull is more prominent,
more
right?
prominent. Yes,
The other legend about this temple is also that the bull started to grow in size,
yes,
and
I heard
it,
that too.
right. So finally, the people were like, okay, you know what, this really needs to be stopped. So they try to nail a trident on the head of the bull, and you can pretty much see the trident over there. So that's the legend behind the bull, very notorious, destroying farmers' crops and wouldn't stop growing in size. So Lord Shiva actually took a back seat. So if you see the idol of Lord Shiva, it's actually placed, opposite in architecture, in the sense the Lord Shiva is facing the back of the bull. And this is again, when you go back, it is pretty much in connection with Shiva and the bull itself. Just that more prominence is given to the bull than being given to the the main idol or the main god worshipped itself.
I've come to the end of my questions for you, Sushma. Is there anything you want to talk about your venture, about yourself, anything to viewers? Please feel free to speak.
Okay, so in general, if we were under normal circumstance, I would have told people don't ever stop traveling. Always look at more and more travel throughout your journey. I would always tell people, if you are staying, say in India, if you're staying in a place like Pune, Calcutta, Bangalore, wherever you are, I would always tell them first, explore your own city, right? I would say get to know more of your own city. There are a lot of like a lot of walking ventures, a lot of tour ventures based in their own city. I would say go explore that, and then you go out looking at the outside world. And I would probably, under the normal circumstance, I would tell people that okay, there are a lot of places that you can whatever we spoke about right now, so many options for people to go and indulge in over the weekend or the weekday. But we have come to such a situation today, with COVID taking over the entire world, that I would say, when you're planning out something in the future, we're hopeful that things will slowly start picking up. You'll see that travel and tourism industry is the worst hit, and it's for a reason, right? Because coming back to wellness again, I would say it's not easy for somebody to undertake to do a travel when you don't have that mental peace of mind. So when you begin to undertake the journey, when things start getting better, always please look out for places that are safe wherever you're staying. To see that the hotels or the homestays or the people that you're coming in contact with, for your tour operators, your transportation, all that, you should have a peace of mind in knowing that there is safety measures being met. So I know that this is my industry. I would probably say, maybe you would expect me to think that, I would want travelers to, come into the city and, start into, or, start making the travel more often. But I would say, go with the flow. Don't really rush into doing anything, because at the first point of thing that you really need to understand is you mentally have to be stress free. So travel is something that you have to do only when you're stress free. Don't get into a situation where you want to, like, okay, just rush into booking a flight for a particular country or traveling to some other place. Just give it some time to sort of slowly start settling down, and make the best decision possible. Make it safe for you, make it safe for other people around, and when things start getting better, I would say just go ahead and have a positive experience rather than being very fearful, or having a negative impact on the travel. So
Okay.
yeah,
Thank you for your valuable time. Thank you for this wonderful information that you gave us today. And I hope to see you again in the coming months to get back to you for some more information about Bangalore, India, and elsewhere.
I would be most happy to take you out again, Anuradha. And I'm still waiting for the time when again we can go out on our walks, explore more of the neighborhood. And really, thank you so much. It's a great initiative by you, and I really hope that things get better very soon, and we get to meet and go to more places. But thank you so much for having me. This is really a wonderful opportunity for me as well, to be able to express out to people of what's happening and how things are. So thank you for giving me that opportunity as well.